Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Venusian Womb, a womb journey where dreams are seeded, identities are alchemized, and the journey inward begins.
This season, we are honoring a dream in gestation, a womb journey exploring the sacred phase between dreaming and birthing. It's about the phase where something meaningful is taking shape within you, even if you can't see it yet.
I'm Milena.
And I'm Megan.
Let's begin by taking a slow, deep breath together. Feel yourself arrive, land in your body.
This is a space to pause, to reflect, to connect, and to grow at your own pace.
We invite you to join us as we sit in conversation, share stories, and explore what it really means to be in the process of becoming. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Venusian Womb podcast. We are so grateful to have you here. This is going to be episode 16. And as you can see, we have a very special guest. We are so honored and grateful and excited to have our guest Jennifer on our podcast. Jennifer is the founder of the Sisterhood of Mu that Megan and I are a part of, and we've also been growing within. And it's been such an incredible pleasure to be part of this sisterhood and to truly experience sisterhood in action, not just in theory, but co-creating together and bringing all of these codes within women to create something meaningful in the world and also activate this wisdom and the wombs of all of the women that are coming into both of our fields. So we are so incredibly grateful to welcome our guest, Jen. And so I'm going to give you the mic, Jen, if there's anything that you'd like to introduce about yourself before we dive into our deeper womby conversation.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you both. And it's so lovely to have both of you in the sisterhood of Mu. I just feel like when we first started talking, you both had so many of those beautiful codes of Mu, which is obviously, the codes of love. And I love that you have your little organization as well, the Venusian Womb, that has probably impacted. I haven't experienced you both in person yet, but I'm sure that you're impacting so many people in your community in such a beautiful way. So I just wanted to give you my gratitude for having me here today and for just being with the sisterhood as well, and for creating such a beautiful place for everyone to dive in and just learn. All the things that may be reflecting and resonating with everybody. So thank you. So my name is Jennifer, and I am a Mu mother. I come from a Harlequin background, which is pre-colonial Filipino background, and I am a holistic healer. I am a wisdom keeper. I am a spiritual teacher, and I'm just here on earth to be a truth revealer so that we can all dissolve the illusions of who we are and to return back to our source, our soul truth, and to live that and embody that in our human life.
Every time you speak, I always get activated, and I'm like, oh, this is about to get so juicy. And I'd love to give a preface just to those who listen. Whenever we drop into conversation with Jen, time literally escapes us. We will drop into a conversation for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm like, oh wow, okay, we right. There's life outside of just exchanging codes and being together, but it's always such a lovely activated conversation. So I feel like my inner child is just so excited to see where this is going to head and go.
I have goosebumps head to toe, and I feel like this is always the effect that Jen has on me. Anytime we are in a Sisterhood of Mu call, I am literally writing so many codes that this woman is saying and activating in me. And then I come back to them and I'm like, whoa, this is an entire journal entry right now. And, I really do trust that the codes that will come through in this conversation is exactly what the listeners are meant to hear. And again, this is really an exploration of consciousness is what this conversation is, and what these codes are is we're just speaking from our lived experience and the remembrance of our lives, of what we've learned as we've been walking this human experience as spiritual beings. And I think I'm going to, with that being said, I do want to start diving into this conversation a little bit. And one of the things that we said is activating the wombs of women. And so when we're talking about activating this womb field, I feel like this kind of brings us into the matriarch.
Mm.
And I want to bring this into the conversation just to open up. And I'd love to ask you, Jen, is how you would define the matriarch for people that may have never even heard of it before.
Yeah, totally. And thank you for inviting me into this conversation because it's so important. When I think matriarch, it's about governance, it's about womb governance. And so that doesn't mean, like a system of policy or control or whatever. It actually just means how do we govern ourselves? How do we govern the feminine space, right? So for me, I feel like the matriarch is someone who has mastered her sacred feminine essence and she leads with her embodiment as an example of her lineage. And, she is wise, she's loving, she's understanding, she's the anchor and she's the glue of not only her family, but her community. And when I feel into matriarch, there's someone who really does inspire me with that is my grandmother who passed in 2012. But her name is Rufina, and she's always around me. She's always making sure that I am in integrity with the matriarch because she was our matriarch of the family of my maternal line. And I always remember her as being a devout woman of God, someone who held, truly sacred values, someone who prayed for her family and the one she cared about daily. And she lived and loved her family. It was like her purpose, right, to bring her family together. And so she used to live with us actually for a few years. And her room was right beside mine. And so every morning and every night, I'd walk by her room and I would see her praying her rosary. And I
Mm.
realized how deeply intimate her relationship was with God and how sacred the matriarch herself is. She's like this deep connection to God. And so I was like, there is something here about the divine and the feminine always connecting together and how open that channel is.
Mm.
Mhm.
I
We are
feel
sending
devotion.
blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Se-
devotion, totally. Yeah.
Go ahead, Milena.
No, I just want to send some blessings to your grandmother for being this figure for you and being able to really be that example to understand what it is to really hold these values of what the matriarch represents. And it's really this beautiful reflection of as within so without. The more that we are cultivating the matriarch within ourselves and upholding these sacred values and living in embodiment with them, the more that we are also activating this in the world. And this is also done through the inspiration of embodiment. It's one of those things that you really just you feel it, you experience it, it's undeniable. And I think that the more that as women we're able to understand and really remember what the matriarch is within ourselves and this sacred governance that you speak of, right, then the more that this is going to be reflected in the world around us. And that is ultimately what my hope is for humanity and for the world, is to be able to come back to also the feminine and to come back into this embodiment of who we are, and even taking the time to reflect on how it is that we are operating in the world and coming into right relationship with
Yeah.
ourselves, with others, with the world around us, and all of the beings of life and love that are here. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing that and defining that.
Yeah,
And
I just love your passion when you're speaking about it too. I'm like, yes, this is what we need. We need this ignited passion within all feminine, right? And even everybody. Honestly, not just the feminine. We need to have
Mhm.
reverence again.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful, especially because the matriarch is a new concept for me. Like this is still something I'm grappling with. I wouldn't say it's embodied fully yet. I'm getting tastes of it, flavors of it. And I know that I remember the day I set the intention of, okay, I want to understand the matriarch. And Jen, that was literally when you came into my field. Like you literally, I've sent it to Milena.
Yep,
And then the sisterhood of Mew was popping up on my Instagram
yep.
feed more. This beautiful Jen. I was like, oh. wait, what's going on over here? And the word matriarch, and I was like, wait, this is something I literally just declared to God that I want to embody and understand more of. And you were gifted. And I, as I've been coming into just feeling into the matriarch and how I just love how you just described it, how Milana added, it's so liberating. There's a liberation with the matriarch, this energy that, and also this like almost there's a little bit of pressure because I feel like there's so much misunderstanding of what it is and that it's the opposite of the patriarch. And then there's already so much fear and anger, rage towards the patriarchy that when we start speaking about the matriarch, it almost feels like some people think we're like trying to like tipple topple all over and like shift everything.
Yeah.
And from what I've been feeling and experiencing as part of a matriarch, I'm like, nope, that's not what's happening over here, guys. That's not what's happening at all. We're finding balance. We're finding unity. We're finding each other again.
Mhm.
And it's so beautiful. It's so incredibly beautiful. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about what came through for me for the matriarch.
Mm,
Yeah, it's not about control. There's no control in it.
no. I love how you
Everyone
brought
is welcome.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Matriarchal society is egalitarian. So everyone has their place and their purpose in the society, in the village. And so, how I look at matriarchy and patriarchy. So patriarchy is actually purpose to recover crisis, as my mentor says. But I look at matriarchy as someone that holds counsel with the crisis and what's happening. And she's like, hey, we are safe. Everything is fine. Even if it feels like it's not fine, we have this. You have to trust. Trust in yourself
Mm-hmm.
and connect. Connect with the divine, connect with your community, connect with the people around you, right? And this is more of a collective feeling. But when we bring it into the body, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of, we drop into the womb space in that governance and we say, is what's in front of me right now either really going to harm me? Or is it something that I can transmute? Is it something that I can shift within myself? Can I purify this? Can I move forward from this? And so just wanted to give like a little glimpse as to like kind of like a micro macro level that is the same energy, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so we're not here to dominate. That's not in our essence as a matriarchal society to dominate. It's to hold counsel is to say, hey, we see what's going on. We need to talk about what is honestly happening. We don't hide anything. We're not bypassing anything. We're not,
Mm-hmm.
avoiding anything. We're bringing things to the forefront and we're saying, is this really the way we want to go? That's how she holds counsel. And it's this permission to just speak honestly.
Mm. Sitting, being able to meet and be with the beauty in the mess,
Yes.
truly. And I feel
Mhm.
like oftentimes we see the mess and we're like, "Ooh, this is too messy. I don't even know how to be in it." And that's the thing is that I feel like something that's been opening for me in my life and even personally in my journey is being able to have unconditional love, to actually meet everything with love and
Mhm.
to allow it to exist. And I think that within that, when we're able to do that and we're really able to be with the truth of what is, then from there we and love and still have love for it, because
Yeah.
it's the love for our humanity. As we as human beings, we are not innately knowing how to live in harmony with one another. And it's something that we're learning through this illusion of separation that we
Mhm.
experience when we come into this human form. And so it's really just a matter of, yeah, how can we meet it? How can we meet it with love? And then from that place, then we can actually move forward. Because if we're meeting it with judgment, if we're meeting it with shame, then it's just creating more and more and more space that doesn't allow this unity to actually happen.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
this is within and without, how can we hold this value of the feminine? This is part of the feminine, is to be able to meet it all and say this is all allowed to exist.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, that unconditional love piece, it's very much rooted in the mother. And the mother is this, it's one of the archetypes of the feminine. But it's one that it's a deep relationship with yourself where you're not only trying to mother life outside of you, you're also mothering yourself. And so when I think about this mother essence, right, and I'm a mother, I have a 7-year-old boy. And when I realized during motherhood what was happening, there was a lot of checking my ego because a lot of the things that were coming up as I was raising him were a lot of inner child wounds that I had carried. And I never mothered them myself the way that I needed to be mothered, until I realized that that's what I needed to do. Because when I grew up, my mother was a career woman. She was a type A personality. I was kind of like seeing her maybe in the morning and in the evenings. And I really just wanted an emotional connection with my mom. And so I started to realize like I was embodying that kind of essence that she had as well. And with my son, it was almost like, "Oh, okay, well, like I need to do things. I need to do things, but this little creature is like having a tantrum right now. Like what do I do?" And then so I learned throughout my own childhood that I would yell or be yelled at. And so I was doing that to my son and I was like, I didn't like this when I was a child. So
Mhm.
why am I doing it to my son? And so I had to mother myself in so many ways and not just about motherhood, but so many other things that I experienced in my life and by embodying this essence of the mother, you're able to love yourself unconditionally throughout your entire existence. I truly feel like the mother is responsible for incarnation. And so if we
Mm.
think about it, right, she's responsible for life. But if you think about your own incarnation, the mother essence is responsible to hold that incarnation, that whole ceremony of the life. And so when the soul comes into form, it's like, okay, here, I'm here to nurture you and love you unconditionally. But then once it meets contrast, right? Once it grows up and becomes a
Hmm.
teenager wants to find its own identity. We're moving up the solar plexus and heart space now. And so it's like, oh, I'm an individual as a teenager. And my mom is trying to like tell me this. And so there's this like kind of conflict that happens between mom and teenagers sometimes because we want to find our own independence and
Mhm.
individuality. And I know I was like a horrible teenager. So I know that that's like, okay. I'm sorry, mom. I understand now. But, if I were to feel into how I would have wanted to be held as a teenager, it's, wow, I see you going through so much curiosity, so much, remembering who you are. And I just want to remind you that this is your truth. This is who you were when you were in my womb. It's like that kind of essence, reminding you to come back to that soul essence, that primordial, you were an ethereal being, but then plunged into this earth plasma and was preparing to be formed. And so to come back to that essence, what is that? What was that aura of yours? And so she's that constant reminder whenever there's, the contrast going on in life, especially in adolescence of trying to find yourself and, early adulthood too. She's that constant like anchoring into, remember this? This is who you are. This is who you are. These are your values. These are your boundaries. Come back to center. This is who you are. And I didn't have that growing up, but I would love to have had that. And I feel like that's, why I'm here is to remind not only myself, my children, but also my community to come back to that essence of the mother within. Yeah.
Jen, that activated me in so many ways
Mm.
in my body. Like I was like, "Ooh, ooh."
Hmm. Same.
Um, there's this big piece when you said that to come back to the mother, the attunement a mother offers her child, which we know that sometimes it's not going to be 100% perfect all the time,
No.
but in the ways that you shared so vulnerably about your experience with having your son and needing to mother yourself in that process too, those tender parts of you. And I saw something online recently. I don't quote me on the study, don't quote me on exactly where it was from, but essentially it was that for people that had secure attachments with their mothers, when they're moving through something really big and they go to their mother, that mask of holding it all together, it kind of just drops and they can let that flood of everything come through and process things a little more deeply. And I thought like that, just that mothering essence that you just spoke about and holding yourself, holding counsel in the matriarch. There's like this co-regulation piece that the mother archetype
Mm.
brings in for the human body to
process to be with the messy, to be with self. And the attunement, that attunement piece of even just women gathering together, which I think we almost naturally step into this like mothering, nurturing role when we come in sisterhood together. And it's so flippin' fantastic. I love it so much. So
Yeah.
co-regulating.
I love that. And it's what we need too, because we've been growing up in patriarchy. It's this competition between women that has been happening that really want to address. And I've been part of that too. I mean, in my younger life, I think we've all been part of that. Every woman has been part of this weird competition that goes on between women instead of uplifting women. But it's
Yeah.
because there's this like weird energy that happened. And I think it's, it has everything to do with history and how everything has kind of unfolded. But what I kind of want to bring back is this real healthy sisterhood where we're able to see each other, and even if we're acting out of line, lovingly say like, "Hey, I noticed this. What's going on? What's going on? Do you need to talk about it?" Instead of "You're doing this." No, 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 no. Like instead of the punishment and the shame, like, "Are you sure that feels right for you?" And it's just that like check in, right? It's not about triggering anybody. It's not about trying to harm them. It's about really holding people accountable for how they're acting out of line or maybe out of alignment with who they are. Because in deep sisterhood, we see each other. We see each other really well at the core. We're all intuitive beings. The woman is a very intuitive soul. And so she can feel everything. She feels energy. She sees it. She notices little nuances that are not truly you, you know? We know this. Um, and so sometimes we're like, well, how do I say this in a loving way without hurting their feelings? But it's really you need to be accountable as a woman too. You can't just go on and on and on in your life and like do all these things that are harmful to yourself and to others and think that it's okay. And so, sometimes women get attacked for this. They get attacked for making a mistake or, going out of alignment, but it's that mother again that says, let's talk. Let's talk. I know you're going through something. Let's just hold hands and, you know, just surrender into this right now. What's truly happening? And I think Milena, you had a good example of that in a conversation we had when you were at the gym. And I feel like, yeah, that was a beautiful experience, that how you held that. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and to give some context, actually, I was at the gym and there was a girl that was using she was she was doing she was doing a movement. I'm not even going to go into the specifics because I think it might go over some people's head, but she was doing some movement behind the squat rack. I wanted to use the squat rack, but she's not using the squat rack exactly. And so I asked her if she was done using the machine. She's on the phone, so she just kind of responds, "I'm on the phone." And I'm like, "Well, I hear you, but also, can I use the machine? Like, can I use the squat rack?" And so I was a little bit annoyed that she didn't really acknowledge my question. And I was going to walk away. And then I was like, but I want to use the machine. So I kind of lingered, and it was just kind of this weird awkwardness of I'm waiting for her to be available to answer my question. And then I said to her, I'm like, "You didn't answer my question," like again, interrupting the conversation she was having. And so it was just this really like just kind of frustrating moment with another woman. And I was a little bit sassy. I was like, "You didn't answer my question and I'm here trying to use it." And, so it was that. And in my sassiness, she ended up ending her call and then came up to me and was like, "You don't have to be sassy about it." And then we kind of had a conversation and she's like, is everything okay? Like, are you okay?" And I was just like, "Thank you. Thank you for just acknowledging." And then we just kind of had a very beautiful repair. But it was the fact that, there was this initial sassiness and guardedness on both ends. And rather than just both of us dismissing each other and just being like, "Ugh, whatever, like I'm going to, whatever, like I'm leaving this energy," we actually were able to come together. And the fact that she truly checked in with
Mhm.
me to know how I was and noticing that, I was not coming maybe from this place of patience. And yeah, rather than getting offended or insulted and dismissing me because she didn't like my energy, she actually got curious, and we were able to share a beautiful connection in that moment, and genuinely leave the conversation feeling so cared for. And that was so beautiful. And I think that that's also something that I'm learning in my personal journey is, we are human. We are human, and we're also learning lessons from one another. And like you said, right, a big part of sisters holding you accountable is reflecting your truth and reflecting where you're out of alignment and where you're maybe not acting in your values. And if there's something that I've learned about this human experience, as much as you may do the work and, strive to be a better human every day, is we're still messy, and we have these wounds that can spill out into our lives regardless of how conscious we try to be. And that's such a humbling part of this process of being human, is being able to really see ourselves in our fullness, see ourselves in our shadow and in these wounds as well, and be able to actually, you know, like, hold accountability, hold counsel with self, and to have sisters that are doing that for you in a loving way, even if, those lessons that you're learning may have caused harm or hurt, is recognizing that we are all choosing to hold counsel and hold accountability and to grow.
Mhm.
And so I think when we're able to come at it from this place of having more understanding for our humanity and for ourselves, is being able to honor, like, and I'll say this, is I can definitely say that I have not been the perfect sister to all women. And through that, I've learned how to be one. And I've learned how to be what it truly means to show up in these values of sisterhood and the matriarch. And it's not about being perfect, but it is about choosing to grow through these initiations and through the truth that a sister can reflect to you. And that is the beauty of it, is to be able to come together rather than the whole dismissing of, you're not perfect, and, like, I don't like your energy or whatever that is, and then just dismissing each other. Because then how are we meant to actually rise in that,
Totally. Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's been a very humbling lesson.
Yeah. And I love that you didn't walk away from that situation either, because you wanted to, right? You wanted to use this spotlight. You have every right to use it. And so you didn't dim yourself, right? You still showed up authentically you, right? In that moment. You're
Yes.
like, you know what? I also have the right to use this. You really don't have to hoard the thing, right? And you explaining and, and just expressing what you want. That's also something that the sisterhood or the, womanhood, we've been silenced for a very long time in our history. And so sometimes we're used to like, okay, well, I'm not going to create conflicts. I'm going to walk away. No, you show up. You show up in your confidence and your truth and your power and say, hey, you know what? This is who I am and this is what I need and this is what I want. Can you meet me here? This is how you love me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so because you did that, she came to you and said, hey, are you okay? Like, what's going on? So she didn't meet you with hostility. She met you with kind of this like same equal measure level, right? So that's just showing you that you're not collapsing because someone else said no or didn't acknowledge you. You still show up. And that's the power of the feminine, that she doesn't hide. Even if she's known for obscurity, she still doesn't hide. She's got this beautiful fire within her too, So it's expansive. It's an expansive energy. You're not just demure,
Calm and
No,
collected.
no, she is not. She will show up in her fullness, even
Yeah,
if that means showing up with the beauty and the mess. She'll still
exactly.
show up.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to bring us back to the sisterhood wound, because I think it's a very big part of this topic. And it's funny because I just made content about this on TikTok last night. Um, and coming into there's almost, especially in the new age spirituality, this moral high ground of being a good sister and holding yourself all together and being fully in integrity with all of it all the time. And I love how, I mean, I'm probably just going to reiterate what both of you already said, but there is this, your sisters are going to shed light on where you're not in integrity, where you're not in alignment with your values, and in such a loving, compassionate way. And I have not been a good sister as through the betrayals that I've experienced personally from sisters, and that I've also been betrayed other sisters, that I have learned what it means to be a sister.
Mm.
And that is what has initiated me into sisterhood in so many ways, and so many clear mirrors of how I haven't shown up for women who were my ride or dies, who literally loved me and were so loyal, and I was so preoccupied and busy chasing male validation because I wanted to be chosen by
Mhm.
a man so
Mhm.
badly that nothing else mattered but the breadcrumbs that I was getting from men compared to the loyalty and the devotion that I was receiving from incredible women.
Mm.
And in that fuckery that I did, those mistakes that I made, I learned what sisterhood meant. And I don't think that because I've made big mistakes in the past, that means I'm not a good sister today, or that means I can't be a sister today. And I think a lot of people, they get villainized in their mistakes that they make, and then that just doesn't turn into just guilt. It's then shame, and then you don't feel like you belong. You feel isolated. You feel completely ostracized from the sisterhood.
Mm.
But just because you've made a mistake doesn't mean you're not welcome in the sisterhood. The sisterhood is
Totally.
for the sisters, for all of us that have made mistakes in sisterhood. You don't have to be a perfect sister to be here. You just gotta own your shit. And sisters are gonna invite you into accountability time and time again. And then it is your decision, your choice to choose, do I want to repair that? And
Mm.
the women that are gonna meet you there are going to lift you up and empower you to be the best version of yourself.
Mm.
So yeah, I think sister wounds run deep. They run deep, and a lot of women don't think they belong because they've betrayed or they've done something hurtful and harmful in the past. And I know that starting a whole sisterhood with Venusian Womb, this was like a little thing in the back of my head. I'm like, well, Megan, you haven't been a good sister to everyone. And some people have you as a villain in their head. And some people would say this girl is running a collective for sisterhood. She wasn't that 4 or 5 years ago, 3, 2 years ago. And
Mm.
so I really want to express that that's very much in my awareness, and that it's an invitation for women that are scared to be part of the sisterhood, because you're welcome. You're welcome here.
Mm.
You're not exiled.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And how you said, just because you made a mistake, it doesn't mean you can't be part of this circle anymore, and that's really important to me because especially within the sisterhood of Mu, right? We've had instances where people didn't get along, or, there's certain things that happen, or people just kind of like left without any real communication. But it's okay. Like, it's like you can come back, just talk, just be honest about what's going on. You don't have to hide, you don't have to feel ashamed. And I think that that villainization thing that you were talking about, a lot of it
Mhm.
comes from within. Like, we
Yeah.
think we're a villain in someone else's eyes, but we're actually not. Like, they don't perceive us that way, but we perceive ourselves because we felt like we did something that felt out of line or that felt
Mhm.
shameful. Right, and so we choose not to come back because we're like, "Oh, well, I'm unlovable now because this is what I did," you know?
Mhm.
And so it's like, well, can I course correct this and maybe just be really accountable and honest with what was going on within me and why I acted the way I did? And can I repair that sister bond, that sisterhood? Um, and it's not about shame again. It's just be accountable, and that's it. That's all we ask. It's to come back and reconcile. The reconciliation is so huge. And I feel this has to do a lot with, healing your mother wounds, healing your sister
Mhm.
wounds, but also healing the family wounds. Because your
Mhm.
interactions with your family kind of, it's kind of unfolded in the way that you present yourself to the world as well, because you learn how to relate by relating to your family.
Yep.
And so when we get to heal our kind of like nuclear family, mother, father, brother, sister, then we also get to heal the outside community as well and how we interact with them, you know? So yeah,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that because I relate a lot to that. I've had my experiences where I felt like a villain. And maybe to this day, people still think I am a villain. Who knows? But I've
Yeah.
had to like move past that and say, I'm
Mhm.
a different person today. And I'm also not going to dim myself to make others comfortable,
Mm-mm.
right? So if I'm showing up in my truth and my authenticity and it's not from a place of harm, then I will show up. And if you're affected, that's your responsibility on how you perceive me,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not my responsibility. I'm just speaking my truth. And if I am being harmful and you perceive it that way, then talk to me. Talk to me about it. And that's okay. We can have a conversation, you know?
I just want to say that this is something that this idea of repair and reconciliation and coming to counsel with self and with others, this is something that I've only learned recently, like as an adult, even though I still think I'm very much a child in so many ways. But it's something that's like it's been something that I've had to learn later on in life is, to really be able to meet these parts of self and to also meet others in their humanity and to be able to grow together. That's part of growing together is that there will be hurt that may be caused whether we intend for it to be that way or not. And I think that that's inevitably part of the human experience is we're going to learn through our mistakes. We're going to learn through our lessons, learn through these initiations that come with the lessons. And I think that it's very important, I think, for those that have had negative experiences with sisters to know that, this is all just a learning space and we are all just mirroring each other. And there's been this beautiful visual that Megan and I have shared from being in what it feels like to be in a women's circle is when you're in circle with women is you're almost in the center. And there's women that are sitting all around you and they're all holding these mirrors and they're also all holding you. So you're able to see yourself from all of these different directions that you wouldn't be able to see alone otherwise. And to also be able to still be in circle and be held and be received, that is so incredibly healing.
Mm.
And it's also supported me with my own sister wounds to myself. I'm still learning how to be a sister to myself and also to be able to, nurture myself through the messy and know that I am worthy of love and belonging despite my humanity. And I think that that's something that comes from learning to mother self, learning to be a big sister to self, and to speak those words of compassion, especially in those moments where like we may not feel worthy or we're not receiving that externally, is learning what it is to do that. And that inevitably is also teaching you how to be a sister to others and to be able to have more compassion for them in their humanity and in their mistakes, and knowing that that's just part of it. And I think that that's been one of the most incredible experiences for me of sisterhood that have really healed so much of my heart, is to really be received in my fullness and to know that I am allowed to exist. That's it. We're all
Totally.
we're all allowed to exist.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the sisterhood, right? Not just a sisterhood physical like circle, but sisterhood within is that belonging is inherent. You chose to be here on earth, and so you have the right to exist here. No one else is going to give you that validation that you belong but yourself. You chose to be here. Even if we think, oh, well, my mom birthed me. No, no, you chose her. You also chose her womb and you chose to come out of that womb. And now you're here. You belong no matter what. And so if people understand this idea of belonging, that it's not from someone else or my mother or whoever, it's no, you are inherently living on this earth. You chose to live here. You're existing here. So you have the right to be here. No one can tell you otherwise.
Huh.
And we have to have that same reverence for everybody else, right? We can have
Mhm.
enemies and we can wish that they're not here anymore, but they have the right to be here too. And how do we
Mhm.
how do we feel into that, right? Makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, especially
Mm.
with conflict going on in the world, the massive division. How can we reconcile that too? Well, it's to look at everyone as them having a right to exist. They're all human. They've made a lot of mistakes, sure, but it doesn't mean they don't belong to be here. They're not allowed to be here, right?
And I'd love to add to that. There was this piece that I was speaking with someone, and she offered this saying. I don't know where it comes from, but she's like, I hold unconditional love for everyone, but I don't hold unconditional presence.
Mm,
And I thought it was so activating for me because I'm like, yes, that's it. It's
mm,
the someone could have caused harm in your story,
yeah.
could have hurt you, and you can still extend love to them and have the boundaries of, well, you don't have access to me anymore. And you could still live. You could still belong here, not in my little world, but in this world from a distance. And I think it gave me so much perspective because I'm such a big believer of Mew, of unconditional love, of self-reflective love. And I was always grappling with this, like, how could you still have love for someone who hurt you? And like, how does this narrative and this fit? And then that offering of not giving unconditional presence to someone that landed so well in my body. So that came through as you were speaking, Jen.
Yeah, and I mean, I can speak into this big time because I went through an abusive relationship for 2 years. And this man was physically abusive, emotionally abusive, verbally abusive, to the point where I completely lost myself. And so when we had parted, I had left. And it was actually not me who chose to leave. My best friend at the time pulled me out of the place. She's like, "You cannot do this anymore." And again, even if we hadn't seen each other in so long, because I was isolated by him, right? She came in and she's like, "I see so much harm happening to you. I cannot let this happen again." And so she pulled me out of the place. And finally, when I left, there was so much grief that happened, so much shame, but then I went through this phase of anger and like, "Oh, I wish that guy died. He doesn't deserve to live." And I remember at some point when I was really, really depressed in like my 20s, I had written him a message and we hadn't spoken in a long time, but I saw him on Facebook and I written him a message and it was everything I wanted to say to him. "I wish you died," like all of the, you know, horrible things. And then I let it all out and then I was like, "Oh, what did I just say?" But then at the end of the day, I'm like, I know why he did the things that he did because he grew up in an environment where abuse was acceptable. And so when I kind of like matured through that whole experience, I realized that, he has a right to exist, but he just doesn't have access to me anymore. I do not want to engage with this person anymore because I know his patterns and I know who he is. And I would
Mhm.
never want to engage with them again. And that's okay too. Right. But do I wish death upon him anymore? No. He has children now, and I wouldn't want their father to die, you know, because they do
Yeah.
actually need someone in their life, hoping that, he's also not causing harm to them either. But then you don't get to decide who lives and who dies on this planet, which is very patriarchal because there's been a lot of execution, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there are crimes, there are heinous crimes that, is debatable about this whole conversation that we're having. But at the same time, there's a deep wound that happens with all of these people who are actually doing harm to others. There's never, "Oh, I just felt like doing it." There is like a deep rooted wound and trauma that happened in someone's life that made them want to do the things that they do. And
Mhm.
as much as it angers all of us to see how can you actually do that to someone, right? It's like we can hold that anger and that's okay. We're allowed to be angry, but also have this compassion, within our hearts to say that is probably why it happened. There's probably something that happened there. Maybe there's, a story, a perspective that we don't know and that we need to be considerate of that too.
Mhm.
So, yeah, no, I totally get, the no access. But also I understand that everyone deserves to be here.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, it's learning to coexist. How can we
yeah.
harmoniously coexist? And that coexistence doesn't need to be connection. And also, we are continuously evolving and growing. And in some moments, it means that, people don't have access to you. They just don't. And that's okay. And in other moments, there can be some types of reconciliation as we continue to evolve and grow and truly be reborn in so many ways. And I think that that's also part of understanding our cyclical nature is that we are continuously learning and growing and shedding and becoming aware of these new parts of ourselves and where our these wounds playing out and then integrating those wounds. And from there, not letting them lead and understanding what it is to understanding what is the I am,
Mhm.
what is that? What are these personal values that truly matter and how are we embodying them? And that's how we grow. That's how we grow and we are able to meet each other in different moments of our lives. And that's also why we're closer to some people while we're learning certain lessons. And then there's separation or other people come into our field and we're all reflecting for each other what it is to be human. And I think that there's the quote of by Ram Dass is we're all walking each other home
Yes.
in some way. And there's new people, like there's people that will come in and bring you into yourself in
Yeah.
so many ways. And
Yeah.
I feel like that really brings us into like I do want to share, and I've been wanting to actually ask this question of you, Jen, related to the sisterhood of Mu and having being in it and experiencing the potency of this sisterhood, to say the least. I really would love to know what if you could share that story of that moment that first sparked the creation of the sisterhood of Mu.
Mm. Yeah. So I just want to backtrack a little bit to what you said about Ram Dass. We're all walking each other home. In our Sisterhood of New prayer, when we open protocol, right, with every session, it says we are all on this ba'a of existence, right? We're walking each other to the infinite all, which means we're all bringing each other home. And so it's this beautiful recognition that we are in circle, we are together, and we're all seeing each other for our authenticity, and we're all walking this life from, our experience now in the whole incarnation experience back into source together. And that's the beautiful thing about how I was feeling into the sisterhood and when I wrote that prayer for us. So the sisterhood and how it started. So again, this comes back to remembrance. So and I have to kind of maybe backtrack a little bit to my grandmother again. So I had this meditation one time with my mentor, and in this meditation, she came through in this house in the clouds, and she like a spotlight was on her in the living room, and she walks into the spotlight, and she's like holding her prayer book and her rosary in her hand, and she pushes it forward, and she's like gesturing, like look. And then as I look and I see this prayer book, I recognize it, the same one that I saw when she's in her room praying, and she said matriarch. And when I heard the word matriarch, I was like, "You're my matriarch." So what does this mean? Is this like a passing down? And so as it was unfolding and I was integrating this whole meditation, I was feeling her requesting that I be the matriarch of my own lineage, but also to bring the matriarchs together. So other feminine leaders. And so since that, I've just looked for signs to like the timing, right? When is this supposed to happen for me? And so I was in another mentorship, like an Ulu mentorship for my brother Keone, and someone else was in that mentorship, and she saw my posts about certain things, and she was like, "Oh my god, this just like activated something in me." And so she messaged me. We started talking, Sister Amanda and I, and then we started having these deep memories of you and love and our ancestry together. And then I was like, imagine if more sisters came into this conversation and how much more we will be activated, remember together, remember what love truly is, remember the feeling how it was when you was first kind of conceived and born, that place of unconditional love and just flow state. Like that's how I feel Mu is, it's this flow state. And so we're like, yeah, let's invite more sisters. And so we started to invite more people that we knew who had beautiful medicine, and so that's how the sisterhood started. And so now both of you are there as well. And I love that you are part of this co-creation. And again, it's this like this acknowledgement of your medicine, right? And that we're all uniquely offering our medicine. And when we bring it together, like we are having that conversation yesterday in our council call of like the ideas for mystery school topics, right? And just like these beautiful teachings we're wanting to come through that I feel the world truly needs. And so the sisterhood is truly about, not just repairing the sisterhood wound, but it's also about a reform of how we want to move in this world, how we want to see this world, not just for ourselves, but for our communities, our families, our partners. And that's another thing too. Like as much as the sisterhood is so rooted in the feminine, we also have to consider our masculine counterpart for balance and harmony, right? We can't just be so stuck in just the feminine essence. The masculine is what builds framework and structure and movement and action, right? And so when we come into this kind of union of both, then we're able to make things happen. Because we can plan all we want, but we actually need some type of essence of the masculine to move it. But then also not on just an energetic um, feeling, but on a relationship feeling, right? When we're with our partners, what are they moving through? What is the brotherhood moving through that we can help them reconcile, right? Because most brothers out there aren't in tune with their feelings and their emotions. They don't know how to navigate them. And that's why they look sometimes to the feminine for that guidance, right? And it's that inner relationship again. Where do we resource first to get guidance? Is our feminine, it's our womb space, it's our intuitiveness, it's our truth. And so when they're seeking kind of that guidance, we have to remind them also that it's not just us that's going to help them reconcile, but it's within their biology, their physical essence, that it's in the sacral, even if they don't have a womb, that they can still access
Mhm.
feminine energy within them, even if they don't think they have it. My husband didn't know anything about, this type of work that I'm doing when we first met. I've actually grown into this as we were together, but my husband is a very intuitive man. And he didn't know it until we uncovered so much of the trauma, so much of the negative experiences and familiar relationships that needed repair, right? And so when that kind of unfolded and unlocked his spinal cord and just that energy flowed up into his pineal gland, his third eye, he this is not funny, but he actually had a seizure. So he had a seizure and it was kind of his awakening because after that everything changed. He became really intuitive after that. Yeah. And so it was again is for him to acknowledge his own feminine for that to even be released. And if we think Kundalini awakening, where does it start? At the base.
Peace.
Yeah.
And then it flows up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I resonate. My man still calls this woman things.
Oh my God. It's the same for
Yes,
you
he does.
too. But like biological women have that the womb space itself, the organ, right, the reproductive system itself is very, very much connected to God.
Mm-hmm.
He created it for she, goddess, whoever it created it for a reason, right? God is androgynous. And so it created it for a reason to birth life. And so that's what's truly special about the feminine and her womb, and that miracle of life. So yeah, there's so much to go into the womb space. Fertility is a big one that I really truly want to bring up. Yeah. Um, 1 in 5 women are infertile, which is not normal. Um, And I don't think it just has to do with diet and lifestyle as much as we want to say, oh, it's just this. There's a lot of energetic trauma, emotional trauma, energetic blockage within the body that we need to repair in order for us to be in flow state again. And a lot of that nervous system repair happens in the womb space, if not all. We think it's mindset. It's actually no, we need to heal our essence of the feminine. And where do we hold trauma? It's in our hips, right? And so we need to find ways to reconcile this trauma so that we can access what feels true to us, to remember who we truly are, how to navigate our emotions so that we can have a sense of emotional intelligence so we don't have to depend on the external for that. And it also, not on a reproductive, I guess, reproductive way that we're speaking about this, but also in a creative way. Can we be fertile creatively? Because if I'm looking around right now with AI happening, there's a lot of sterility. It's very sterile out here.
Mm-hmm.
So people are being complacent with creating because they're like, oh, well, AI can do it for me. Right? And so we're
Yeah.
outsourcing more and more and more. And when we outsource, we're no longer tending to our inner soil. And that soil tends to dry up. Our
Yeah.
inner soils dry up. So how do we water it? How do we give it the right nourishment? And that's really a holistic thing. It's mind, it's body, it's emotion, it's spirit. It's everything that has to do with fertility. So, I'm not just talking about reproductive fertility. It's just an energetic fertility that needs to be revived because I truly feel like energy is being sucked out of all of us.
It's siphoned, yeah.
Siphoned.
Like the
Truly.
creative energy is being siphoned.
Yeah,
And to add to that, it's like, yes, the rise of AI and like literally giving your power away in so many different ways to so many different things. And also that inner critique, that inner voice of, well, it has to be perfect. Your
mhm,
creativity, what you put out there has to be perfect. If it's anything less than perfect, don't put it out there because then it's not worth it.
yeah,
And then there's like this tide because of capitalism, because of the society we live in, we're like entangled and chained to this. Our creativity has to be productive, which is the opposite
yeah,
of flow. It's the opposite of creation energy. It's the opposite of what we birth from our womb space. And I could see how that's a big reason people are scared and there's fear around allowing their creativity to flow, and just resistance and discomfort because their creativity isn't good creativity. I think most people say I'm not a creative person. That's
totally.
like that's like a go-to, like, they don't there's this idea of what creativity looks like that already is stunting people and blocking people from accessing their own creative essence, their soul. And thank you so much for bringing this to the conversation, Jen, because it's so important to talk about. And again, like, a lot of people see fertility just as birthing children, which, yes, that's a real big issue too, but just your essence, your soul, what do you have to bring and share, your medicine. And a lot of people, they just it's dead.
Yeah,
There's no connection to it, and it's very sad and scary that we're so disconnected from our essence, from our souls, from us,
yeah.
our divinity.
Well, I mean, I think that's a huge reason why, many are physically infertile because they're not
Yeah.
actually creating anything.
Yep.
They're depending on, and I'm not judging anybody by saying this, but if you're not creating something for yourself, you're more likely to be infertile because that essence of creativity is not flowing through you. And so as much as you think it might be your diet or, like I said before, anything just physical, it's actually what energetically is not creating anymore. Why are you stopping yourself from creating? And so how can you nourish your fertility energetically? And then that will, I feel that it will also activate that physical fertility as as a result of that. Just to give an example, I had a client, and I have her permission to share this, not her name, but just the situation and the the work that we are doing together. So she had PCOS, and she only had her menstrual cycle, I think every 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, and it would stop. So she didn't have a regular cycle. And so as we were doing our work together, this deep energetic work and going through, the traumas and the experiences that she went through, that were kind of held in the womb space, we cleared all of that. And by the end of our work together, after 3 months, she was getting her menstrual cycle every 20 to 30 days again. And so I believe because of that work, you're moving things energetically. You're allowing your body to be in flow state. Your nervous system is regulated again. Your body is ready to receive creativity, life, flow, that her menstrual cycle got regulated, you know? And
Mhm.
it sucks because there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, well, you need to be certified on this to talk about fertility. But when I'm actually doing the work with people and seeing the results, I'm like, well, this is not just coming out of nowhere.
Mm-mm.
This is deep work. This is deep sacred work when we're healing the womb on all levels, physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, everything.
I'm a big believer in experiential practice outweighs theory every time.
Totally. You see it for your eyes, right? You see to believe it. You're
Mhm,
doing the
mhm.
work and it's happening. And this is another thing I want to bring up is that why do we not believe in our magic? Why do we not believe in our magic? I'm not just saying women have magic, men have magic too, but we have this innate ability for making magic and doing magic, and all in the name of benevolence, right? We don't want to be doing malevolent things, but we have this access so deeply to God energy, to this divine being that resides within us and also within the universe. And when we use this energy and we co create it together, miracles can happen. But we doubt ourselves because there's fear. Oh, maybe I'm too much, you know, or there's the witch wound, right? Or I'll be persecuted if I do this. But I really want to encourage people to, number one, be responsible with your magic. Number two, try your magic out. Even if you don't believe in it, just try it. And number three, not only believe in it, know it. Have so much faith in your magic that it's unwavering, that no one else can tell you it's wrong.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Jen, for bringing this here. And I mean, honestly, just what was coming through for me is just the softening. We're learning to soften in a world that is rigid, in a world that sticks all of these labels and has very linear pathways for how we should be moving in our lives, especially in terms of like how we're of service, which is a big part of this human experience is in our process of remembering who we are, remembering what we're here to serve. What are we here to share? And oftentimes for myself, I mean, I went down the avenue that I was told to, go to school and then pursue the careers that are the most valued by society or is seen as the most productive in society. And there are definitely some that are significantly more rewarded than others. And in that pursuit of what I thought would lead me to purpose, I realized that that actually wasn't my purpose. And that wasn't the ways that my creative essence was actually moving through me authentically. If anything, being in some place that wasn't in alignment with who I am, it was actually draining me and draining my creative essence. And so it really does take a lot of, I think, truly knowing thyself and owning this magic, owning your gifts, owning what you are here to share. And I think choosing that, continuing to choose that each and every day. And it is a process. And that's ultimately what we're creating with Venusian Womb is what is that thing? Like, what is that thing that, how is creation moving through you? And once you know how creation is moving through you, what is it in service to? And then continuing to choose that creative path of bringing this creative essence forward in whatever ways it's authentically, truly living within you. And then from there, it's like, how can we nurture this dream? How can we remember to dream of a world outside of these rigid constraints and limitations and recognize that the feminine is also the potentiality. She is able to make possible what might seem to be impossible. And that's the whole beauty of it is that when we're able to really honor ourselves as powerful creative beings, then we are able to actually step out of this illusion of
Mhm.
we are not that. And I think that that's a big part of this process, really, of recognizing like what lights me up. What
Mhm.
lights me up? What am I here to share? How can I be of service through these gifts? And then from there, trusting that when you continue to choose that and live in your most authentic and embodied essence, that there will always be some magic on the other side. And it does take a lot of faith. It does take a whole lot of faith. I will say that. And that's also why we have our sisters,
Yeah,
really holding us as we go through this inner process.
totally.
And that is the matriarch. It's being able to remind women of their power and remind women of their magic and the possibility that comes from really honoring how God, the divine source, whatever we want to call it, how it's moving through us.
Mhm.
And I think that having more people in their true medicine, that is exactly what this world needs because we all have medicine to share. Every single person in this world, I genuinely believe this. I will die on this hill. We all have some medicine
Yes.
to share, and we've just become so disconnected from ourselves that we
Mhm.
don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
We don't even know what that medicine is, but it's how can we come back
Mhm.
home, come back to ourselves, come back to love and how it's actually moving us.
Yeah. And when you're speaking of everyone has their own gifts, and when I look at matriarchy, I look at it as an ecosystem as well of, every being on this planet is purposed for a reason. God created every being, every plant, every living thing for it to function in harmony with the world around it. And so when we have this ecosystem, you'll know that it all functions together. And, there's one beautiful thing my grandmother used to always tell me is if there's a will, there's a way. And, life is full of endless and limitless possibility. And her as my matriarch telling me that, that's been my guiding light for my entire life. And knowing that everything is possible. And to remember what your soul gift is to ask yourself, what ignites your soul? When you feel chills in your body and you're like, this brings me so much joy, passion, and pleasure. I love this so much. That's your passion, that's your gift, and that's your offering to this earth. It's your medicine, it's your soul gift. And so when you remember that, when you tune into your soul again and your truth of your soul, let that carry you into your entire life and then offer it to this earth.
Oh, I'm in like deep honor, awe. I don't even know what word to use of just being in this conversation with both of you right now. I feel activated. I feel remembrance. I feel like, ooh, my little self is like, wow, this is cool. This is fun. I can't believe we're sitting on a Wednesday morning speaking about all of this. And I feel like this kind of brings us to a completion with the episode. I love how you left us with that nugget, Jen. So
Mhm.
good to find your medicine. And I want to check in if there's anyone else that has any final little tidbits that they want to share before we close off. But I feel like that was a really lovely close.
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
So much gratitude for the power of women and the power of sisterhood. And it's been medicine. It's been medicine in my soul path. And it's allowed me to really know myself,
Mm.
to meet myself with love and compassion, and to know that I belong, that I am worthy to exist in this world. And it's called me into myself and into my medicine. And it's been a remembrance, and to meet women that activate this remembrance like you, Jen, and like you, Megan. It's been such a catalyst. It's been such a catalyst for my own growth and for me stepping into my gifts. And I'm like, this lights me up.
Mhm.
This right here lights me up. And I'm so grateful to be lit up.
Yeah. And Megan, yeah, I just want to acknowledge how you brought forth so many nuggets that I needed to remember also within my experience, and your curiosity and just your ambition to dive more deeper into this medicine of the matriarch. It's a calling, I think, for all women. We go through our entire lives in different facets of the woman and the different facets of womanhood, and just feel like matriarch is that understanding of all the archetypes together, and then
Mhm.
feeling what that feels like for her uniquely. And I just wanted to give so much of my gratitude to you both for even opening up the space for this conversation and to bring up sisterhood. When we heal together as sisters and when we celebrate each other and we are supporting each other and we love each other, then the world will be loved beyond measure. We are the first resource. We inform the world. Yeah.
Juicy.
Oh my gosh.
Juicy.
Juicy. Yeah.
Mic drop.
That's it. That's all we need.
Thank you, Jen.
I love you
Thank you
both.
to everyone who has listened to this podcast, this episode. Guys, this is one that I would re-listen to just to, to really make sure those codes land. So we have one final episode after this one, or no, two more episodes after this one. And then that is going to be the end of the season on gestating the dream. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next Friday.
Bye. Thank you for joining us inside the Venusian womb. If this episode spoke to something within you, we'd be so grateful if you left us a review or rating. It truly helps our podcast grow and reach more beautiful souls who are on this journey of becoming.
You can also share this episode with someone who may resonate with this message. Sometimes the right words arrive exactly when needed the most. Remember, growth takes time, and everything you're becoming is unfolding exactly as it's meant to.
May this Venusian code activate the Venusian energy within you. Until next time, take a breath, trust the timing, and keep tending to the dream within.
With love, Milena and Megan.